How do we find an inverse function? Let's talk about it together. Hi, I'm Dr. Finch. I have a PhD in math and over 20 years of experience in education. All right, before we get into our example where we're asked to find the inverse of the function f of x is equal to 5 minus x, let's talk a little bit about inverse functions. And I'm not going to give you the exact definition. I think that's a little bit a lot. So we're going to kind of give it's more of a lax definition. An inverse function, basically the idea is that it undoes what a function does. So for example, whoops, let's do it this way. There we go. For example, if we have the function f of x is equal to x cubed, our inverse function for that would be the cubed root of x. And so when we take f of f inverse of x, we would be taking the cubed root of x and then cubing it, we would get x back again. So what we put in, we get back again. A couple things to remember about inverse functions. Not all functions have inverses. So not all functions. And I'm going to abbreviation functions FCNS. The other thing to remember is that if we're looking for the inverse of a function, it is not equal to 1 over f of x. Now, this is something that a lot of students do because you see that inverse and you think, oh my gosh, of course, if we're looking at an inverse, it has to be 1 over. This is a different inverse. So do not put 1 over your function and think you're good to go because you are not. All right, before we get back to our problem, one last thing. If you have a question or a topic that you'd like to see covered, please email me at purplefinchmath@gmail.com. All right, back to our question. We are looking for f inverse of x for our function. We're going to have a couple of steps for this. The first step is we are going to replace our f of x with y. So instead of writing f of x is equal to 5 minus x, we will write y is equal to 5 minus x. This is going to make it a little bit easier for us. Second step, we are going to switch all x's and y's. So in other words, we are going to take and where we see our x, we are going to put a y. Where we see our y, we're going to put an x. So instead, we are going to write x is equal to 5 minus y. All right, third, we are going to solve for our new y. Okay, so if we have x is equal to 5 minus y, we can add y to both sides. What we do to one side, we have to do to the other. And now we can subtract x from both sides. Y is equal to 5 minus x. And the last step that we do here to finish this off is we replace y with f inverse of x. So now we have f inverse of x is equal to 5 minus x. And I know what you're thinking, that's the function we started out with. And you would be correct in thinking that. In this case, we actually get the same function that we started out with because that function is an inverse of itself, which is kind of neat. It doesn't always happen. In this case, it does. I'll be doing another example soon where we find our inverse function is very different from the one that we started off with. Thank you for listening.